Obviously, welcome to campus. Excited that basketball season starts officially the 12th on Friday. And the guys have done a great job all spring, all summer, all fall of preparing. I told them yesterday that they've prepared themselves to practice well. They have. You know, we've had individual guys that I won't get into at this time that have given great effort, gone above and beyond. We call that giving extra. Beyond even what the coaching staff asked of them to do. I think the guys buy in collectively in terms of their attitude and effort has been off the charts. I've been saying that now for some time. That hasn't changed. And it makes you as a coach very excited to work with this group. You know, we've got 4 seniors who I think take a lot of pride right now in what they did in the spring and the summer and the fall. Have done a good job of leading our younger guys. I'd be remiss if I didn't say Tracy, as a younger guy as well, has jumped in there with those 4 seniors and, you know, I think done a great job of leading. Our conditioning results, which we got back on Monday, were off the charts. You know, our strength numbers are up. Skill numbers, assistant coaches have done an unbelievable job of working with their position groups. Jamal Walker works with our guards. Paris Parham works with our wings. And then Dustin Ford works with our forwards and post. Those guys have all gotten better. So that part's been very, very encouraging. So once again, we're excited to get this thing underway officially. You know, I looked today and the staff reminded me to be patient. We've had 16 team workouts per NCAA rules since the spring that we've been allowed to do, which averages out to about 4 a month. And so it's hard to establish habits and routines that you want both defensively and offensively when you're working out as few at times as we are right now. But you know us coaches, we're impatient. You know, my wife reminds me of that all the time. We've got a ways to go, but again, most importantly, I think the spring and the summer and the fall and the way that we've used those 3 time periods has really prepared us for this opportunity starting Friday at 5 o'clock on the 12th as we get this thing underway.
What are your biggest concerns as you go in? I mean, you need some help in the interior. It looks like just in numbers and things. But what are the big issues for you?
You know, obviously, when you lose a player the caliber of Myers, at the juncture that we did, you have to replace him by committee. We were very fortunate to get Sam McLaurin, a 5th-year senior transfer from Coastal Carolina, to help us bridge that gap. And Sam's one of those guys that's just kept getting better. I think he's played his best basketball the last couple weeks in our workouts and our team stuff. He's starting to get more settled and feel more comfortable, I think, being at Illinois and how we do things. He's a bright young man. He picks up things quickly, and I think one of the things that I really like about Sam is his versatility. He's going to learn both 4 and 5. He's an older guy. He's very bright, as I mentioned. He's going to be able to pick both positions up, which is huge and gives us some versatility. Obviously, Nana played a lot last year. I should say, when I say a lot, meaning a lot of games. In terms of significant minutes, you know, not a whole lot. Jimdy, same way. Shaw, same way. Henry, same way. Now, Griffey played more, so we're counting on him and his leadership and his experience more, maybe so, especially early here, than some of those other guys. But we've got a relatively inexperienced front court with the exception of Sam and Griff, but we have bodies. So as much of that is a concern, I'd say my bigger concern, quite honestly, is ball handling. You know, I've been saying that for some time. To play the way that we want to play, you have to have multiple ball handlers. Guys have certainly gotten better, as I said, over the spring, summer, and fall. But, you know, someone asked me today, are you going to be able to play as fast as you want to play? I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet because although we certainly want to play fast long term, we don't want to try to ram a square peg into a round hole. That's not fair to the 4 seniors that are here. You know, our job as a staff is to try to find that balance between putting in our system full-fledged and also giving this year's particular team the best chance to be competitive. You know, so that's the balance that we're trying to find right now heading into Friday night.
You want to play on offense. Who are some of the coaches that you've drawn from or influence that you've had in how you play now?
Well, a few. You know, I've mentioned Mike D'Antoni, certainly one. Coach Mott is certainly one. Todd Licklider, who I played for in high school and was an assistant with at Butler, certainly another one. Picking up things here and there from those guys. But I think the most important thing by far, I've said this before, is, I'm certainly not perfect and had to learn from mistakes like everybody else. But the one thing I think I did do right from the very beginning when I became a head coach is I said, I'm going to be myself. I'm not going to be somebody else. I'm going to learn and draw from those guys that I've worked with and for that have been successful. But I just felt like it was really important to be me. And how that relates, Paul, to the offensive end is I have a real conviction that we want to attack. We want to be aggressive. We want the ball in the paint. We want to play with great tempo and pace and speed. We want to wear you out with a 94-foot game. That's me. That's who I am, and that's why we play that way. That's what we've taught. Again, back to the first question there, are we going to be able to do that on steroids this year? That remains to be seen. We still need these first 2 to 3 weeks, I think, of practice where we're practicing every day. It is hard. The staff's right. As much as you'd like to gather information and make key decisions on certain things, when you practice once and then you don't practice again for another 8 or 9 days per the rules, it's hard. It's hard to get in any type of routine and figure things out and connect dots, so to speak. I think it'll be a lot easier. This weekend we practice once Friday, twice Saturday, twice Sunday. So, we're gonna get some information this weekend as we practice back-to-back days as a team for the first time.
At times last year, how do you foster that attitude with the team, and who's you mentioned some seniors, but who stood out, or who do you turn to so far?
Well, it's a great question, Shannon. I think, the one thing I will say is I've been a part of staffs that have coached successful teams that haven't necessarily had great leadership from the players. When that happens, then that's got to come from me, and you got to step in and you've got to be that guy that provides them with direction and leadership. And obviously, the players that to some extent or some level have to be able to do that. But I was asked a question last week. Hey, you're getting ready to vote for captains. You let the players do that. The players and the coaches have a vote. So on October the 20th, we'll vote. Okay, and I basically said, hey, here's the things we're looking for from our captains, which is relative to or relates to our standard of performance. And someone said, man, that's a high standard. How many guys have you coached? I think it was Paul. How many guys have you coached that have lived up to that standard at that level? Probably about 5 in 19 years. So, there's not – leadership is something that, you kind of – you know it when it's there. I mentioned Brandon Miller, who's on our staff now. He had it when I coached him at Butler. Jaquel Foster, when I was at Ohio State, had it. Walter Offit last year at Ohio, he had it. So I think, certainly leadership's important, and the more guys you have that think that way, the better off you are. If your team is player-driven in terms of that area of leadership, it's even better. Right now, it's still too early for me to tell you, that. I know I've got some hungry seniors, but again, I'm going to let those guys make that choice of who they want to follow. I always tell them that, if you're a leader, really, you got people following you. And you can say you're a leader, but if no one's following you, you're not a leader. Okay, same thing with captain. The captain or the C can be, on your jersey or beside your name, but if you don't have people following you, then how much of a captain you are. So I think sometimes that stuff takes care of itself, and I'm anxious to see what our players come up with on the 20th.
Seniors, Tyler, DJ, and Brandon, these guys have had an up and down kind of careers, inconsistencies. What have you noticed? How can you fix that?
Well, one thing I'm not going to get into the whole deal of what's happened in the past. I can't control that. That's in the rearview mirror. But I do know where they're telling me they want to go and how good they want to be. And, I think their buy-in's been good. Their effort's been good, as I mentioned earlier. Their attitude's been good. Those are things we take great pride in regardless of the results. And, they've been coachable. They've been teachable. They've been great off the court. They've been great in the classroom. And I think those two things are key because that gives you a chance to coach your team. And that's what we've been able to do on a daily basis. And so that part we're very thankful for.
What about toughness? Can you teach toughness? Do you have to recruit toughness? How do you breed that?
I think to an extent you can. within what you do, within your culture, what the expectations are. Guys can buy in to how things are and what you have set up within your culture. But I do think some of it's recruiting. I do. I think it's, mental toughness and physical toughness, especially the physical side. I think guys are either seekers or avoiders by nature. I've always believed that. Now, certainly you can encourage guys to be more seeking than avoiding, but I think you either have that in you or you don't. One of the things I think we're going to continue to do that I think is good is the concept of the Matto Awards or points, which really encourages those guys to dive on loose balls, take charges, make hustle plays, give extraordinary effort. All those things I think are real glue and key to winning. So, that's something that we expect everybody to step up and make those plays. Are we there yet? Not yet, but we'll get there.
As early as it is, who do you see on this roster that you feel encouraged about, that they're going to do it the way you want to do it in terms of your up-tempo that fits your style?
Well, there's more than one. Again, I think the guy that stood out, and certainly not to say that the other guys, as I've mentioned already, haven't worked hard or gotten better, because they have, but Nana Egwu's the guy that's really gone above and beyond. I mean, just in terms of, he's the type of guy right now, you ask him to do 10 push-ups, he does 13. You tell him you want him to become a better student of the game, and he's up in the office every day begging for DVDs. He goes above and beyond. And with a young man like him, you just hope that, he gets to experience some dividends or the fruits of his labor a little bit in terms of what he's sacrificed and the extraordinary commitment that he's made to our basketball program and to getting better. So he's probably the guy that stood out. There's been other guys that have worked hard too, but I think consistently over, you're talking 5 weeks of spring, 8 weeks of summer, 7 weeks of fall, that's 20 weeks worth of information. I think he's the one guy that's consistently gone above and beyond the norm to do extra on his own. So I think he's the guy that's probably stood out the most, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that want to do whatever it takes to get us to where we want to go. And obviously he's demonstrated that, I think, at this point at the most consistent level of anyone on our team.
On the subject of Nana, how do you view his skills?
Getting better. I think he's getting better. He's the guy that, he's 6'10", 6'11". He's long. He's athletic. He has good hands. You give him something or you tell him one time, he adjusts and he does it. But he's not that guy. I said to someone earlier today, I think Lauren and I were talking, if you're an old school guy and you think that because he's 6'10", 6'11", he should be on the either block for 40 straight minutes, you may not appreciate or like his game as much. It's not him. I mean, last week he made 73 out of 100 threes. Okay, some people don't like that. I'm not saying he's going to play exclusively out there, but we're going to move him around. That's what he's good at. He's mobile. He's athletic. He's 6'11", 230-some pounds and running a 5:20 mile. So someone that's that athletic and can move like he can move laterally and run, I think we're, missing the boat if we just stick him down there and bang. He's going to have to do some of that for us to be good and for him to take a jump to that next level of play, which he wants to do, but we're going to make him a moving target. He needs to be a guy that can play in all areas of the court as his skill set continues to grow and catch up with his athletic mobility in terms of lateral quickness and speed.
Like to play up-tempo. Years ago they had a 6-man rotation, then it went to 7, 8. Some people play 9 or 10. Do you have any special?
Well, I like to play 9. I think that's, and I've played 10 before. I've played 7 before. And I mean this too. I mean, I tell the guys, I love all of you. I wish I could play all of you. But that's not the way it works. And, I have no personal agenda. I just want to put the best team out there that gives us the best chance to be competitive and plays the best together. I'd love for that to be 9, but I tell them all the time, players play players. We chart everything. We evaluate everything. We just went over it again this morning and tweaked the practice chart. And, they're going to get feedback every day. It's going to be posted on the locker room door. I mean, they're going to know how they're doing. We're going to constantly give them feedback. I think that's what any player wants. I think that's what any employee wants. They want to know. And so, we're going to continue to give them feedback in terms of how they're doing and put and I hope we can play up to 9. I do. I hope that happens. But, again, that's up to the players.
Will ball handling responsibility fall to Tracy, or do DJ and Brandon have to do some of that? Or?
Well, I think a lot of it obviously falls on Tracy, but he's not, that's certainly not his sole, he's not the only guy that's going to be held accountable in that area. Brandon and DJ both are guys that as fourth-year players, they're going to have to handle the basketball for us. Brandon, we practiced yesterday, and Brandon looked good handling the ball yesterday. Had one of his better practices playing the point yesterday. So he's getting better. DJ's really worked to attack his ball handling spring, summer, and fall. Coach Walker's worked with him. I would say, 2/3 of what DJ's doing in workouts is putting the ball on the floor in some form or fashion, to try to expand his game a little bit. DJ's been very committed to that and has worked very hard. He's gotten a lot better taking care of the basketball and feels, I think, more confident handling the basketball. But it's really a team thing. Obviously our goal is to have more assist and turnovers. We want to make sure we're not going to play perfect. I make that crystal clear to those guys, especially if we're going to play as aggressive and as attacking as we want to play. We're going to turn it over some. And I think it pops the air in the balloon a little bit and say, hey, we're going to play with around 12. Because I don't want them so overly cautious that they're afraid to play aggressive or attack, because that's not who we are. So, but I think, and to short answer your question, I think those other guys are going to have certainly some responsibilities and take some of that burden alongside Tracy. I think if you asked him, every day is kind of day one for him right now. The one thing, he's also a guy that loves to watch film. He wants you to give him film and, hey, can I take it with me and watch it? And he asks a lot of questions. And, I think Tracy wants to be a lead guard. That's half the battle. I think that, with who we have right now, as we mentioned, he's going to be our primary ball handler, certainly as of today. But there's more to being a lead guard than being 6'1". I always said that in recruiting. Sometimes I'll look at different things. Guys, when they'll say he's a point guard. And I'll say, why? Because he's 6 foot tall? That doesn't make you a point guard. There's more to it than that. Do you understand time and score? Can you make guys better? Do you know who has the hot hand? Can you be the front porch of our defense? Are you vocal in your leadership? As well as displaying great body language. Are you an extension of the coach on the floor? I mean, there's a lot. Can you change speeds and gears? Can you defeat pressure? So there's a lot to being a point guard or a lead guard. And the one thing I really like about Tracy is he wants to be one, and he's willing to learn, and he picks up stuff quickly. He cares at a high level, and that's all you can ask.
Mike Latula is fitting into your team and into the system.
Well, Mike obviously is unique in nature in that he's the only true freshman on our team. I pointed that out to the guys during the summer. I've never been in a program where we've brought in only one. Now, obviously, Rayvonte Rice and Sam McLaurin are new guys, but they're older. Sam and Rayvonte have both been to college and have in some ways kind of been there, done that. Mike's making the transition for the first time. I think Mike's a very mature kid. Mike works really hard. He's smart. He can make shots. Getting him at this juncture, I think the two hardest things when you make the transition from high school to college are the speed of the game and the strength of the players. And so once we get Mike caught up to speed in those two areas, the speed of the game and the strength of the players, I think Mike's got a chance to be a guy that certainly plays a valuable role on our team.
Mike Henry's kind of a unique body on your team and skill set. What have you seen from him in workouts as he's been progressing?
The biggest challenge we have right now with Mike Henry was the question, is getting him to play consistently. He's shown times during workouts or when we played where he's wired to score. I think it's the best thing that he does. He can really score the basketball. Trying to get that same type of commitment and mindset on the defensive end is what we've challenged Mike to do, and I believe he'll do it. And then being active on the glass. I thought the last couple workouts we had, he was our best guy on the offensive glass, keeping balls alive and being active. And so he's done some good things there. But just being more consistent in his overall production and approach. Part of that was he was young, but I tell him that excuse is gone now. I mean, you've been in college for a year. We need you to be more consistent in your approach mentally and in your production. And he's not the only guy, and he's not the only guy. And again, the great thing about these guys is they are so coachable and teachable, so that always gives you a chance to reach them and for those guys to get better. And Mike has made some strides, but it's the old Pat Riley, I'll take consistency over greatness any day of the week. And that's where we're at a little bit with Mike, and he'll get there.
Was hurt for most of the season last year. How's he progressing right now?
Can I just repeat what I said about Mike Henry and say ditto? Devin, once again, talented, long, athletic, great size for perimeter. He had a couple tip dunks this week and made a great play where he drove it into the lane, pro-hopped and finished against size. And, he'll show you a play like that more often lately, and you'll go, wow. And then there's times where he disappears a little bit. And Devin knows that. It's not that I'm telling you that I haven't told him. So he's working at it, trying to be consistent with his motor. Consistency is a huge thing with him. That's the big buzzword we've been using with Devin as well as Mike Henry.
Bertrand started to emerge a little bit last year. Can you tell us some of the improvement and strides you've seen in him coming into this season?
Sure. Joseph is obviously extremely athletic. I think he, maybe as much as any player, will benefit from the tempo that we play. The more the game gets up and down, I think the more it fits Joseph. He's great in transition. He can finish with angles. When you give him space, he can get in the paint and make plays. Right now we're trying to get him, as we are an entire team, to value the basketball more and to recognize when those opportunities for him to drive are there and when they're not. And so we're working very hard with him on that. But he's certainly really talented, extremely athletic, very explosive. I like the fact that he can get the ball into the paint, which hopefully will increase our chances of getting to the free throw line.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Kind of a unique situation where we have a new football coach and a new basketball coach. Have you spent time with Tim Beckman? You just sort of thoughts on the two starting out from square one together?
Yeah, sure. I loved him. I love his energy. I love his enthusiasm. He's a grinder. I love the relationship Tim and I have developed. Really started back in the spring when we did the caravans. Of course we talk. I think one of the things that you try to do when you're attempting to be successful is try to talk to other people that have been successful in different walks of life, and obviously Tim has done that. So he's given me great ideas, different things I've bounced off of him. He's been a tremendous resource, and like I said, I've enjoyed getting to know him and his family. My wife, Allison, and Kim talk frequently as well. So, we look forward to that relationship growing and developing even more moving forward.
The importance of picking up Sam from Coastal Carolina. Where does he fit? Can he play a little center, or do you plan on putting him at forward and maybe working him in with Kyler? What exactly is his role?
Did you guys get the sun exactly right there at this time? You guys knew that I was going to have Ford cut my hair today, so the glare would be even brighter. The question was regarding Sam McLaurin. I mentioned earlier one of the things I like about Sam's is versatility. I think that he's older, and the thing I like about Sam is right now he wants to lead. Obviously, he's kind of one of the newer guys on the block, but he has gained the respect of his teammates fast. If you say why, because he's one of those Matto guys. I mean, he's diving on loose balls, he's taking charges, he's getting rebounds, he's physical, and he's smart. He picks things up quickly. He's going to be able to play both 4 and 5 for us. Rebounds per minute played. I believe that's one of the statistics that translates, and he's done a great job in that area. Because I think a big key to being, ultimately the team that we want to be in transition is you have to defensive rebound the basketball at a pretty high level. We know that. The more stops we get, the more first-time defensive rebounds we get, the more that we can get out in transition, gives us a chance to play the tempo that we want to play. And I think Sam will help us tremendously in that regard. Thank you.